Hey there, welcome back to Build Explain. In last week's episode, we went over wood, the in-depth coding mechanics of how Valheim calculates stability for structures, and the beginning of a concept build to show that regardless of how basic wood is, you can still build something worthy of commemoration. If you haven't already seen part 1, I highly recommend you give it a watch to catch up, maybe even learn something new. Today, I want to cover the beautification and furnishing of our new home, so let's get started. There's a lot of parts to this video, so feel free to reference the timestamps in the description if there's a specific part you want to skip to, or need to go back over something. First, let's spruce up the exterior. One of the basic things you can do to really make your build stand out is framing and trim. Most of Valheim's build pieces, like walls and roofing, have rough or uneven edges, and you can drastically improve your base's appeal by simply adding beams to all of the exposed corners and joints like so. I'm going to go ahead and do this for the entire build, and I'll be back in just a second. As you can see, with just a little bit of effort we can really make the build look a bit more finished, but we're not going to stop there. One of my favorite pieces to use in builds to add a bit more texture is the wood roof cross. By placing some of these around the building, like at the floor and the roof, you can add even more detail to the exterior to make it look more like home. I'm going to use the 26-degree cross since the build isn't terribly tall, and we don't want the crosses to take up the entirety of the wall and make it look cluttered. Most of the time, crosses will simply snap into the wall like so, and just leave enough poking through that it gives the visual effect we are looking for. However, if you run into some stubborn spots where the piece doesn't want to snap correctly, don't forget to use Q and E to toggle your snapping options to give you a few more angles to work with on your own placements. And unlike myself and my ex-wife leading up to our divorce, once the entire building is framed, we can really see the build come together. Now let's get started on framing the windows and doors. I'm also going to add another window on the east side of the house, just in case you guys missed how I built them in the last episode. Obviously, every build is going to be a little bit different, and call for different styles of windows, but I like to keep my main base's windows as simple as I can to reduce the chances of collapsing the roof if I decide to expand the base in that direction. We'll start by destroying the walls in the area we want the window to be. I only want the window to be as high as a single half wall. This will allow for good visibility while preserving the aesthetics of the interior. Once the opening for the window is created, we'll make the window shape by placing beams in a plus sign formation. But it looks like we don't have a good snap point for the horizontal beams of the window. So what I'm going to do is place half walls inside of the frame, and then use shift click to override the snapping feature to try to get as close to the center of the frame as I can. Once I'm happy with my placement, we can use the snap feature on the second beam to give us a symmetrical plus shape. For the windows we built in the last episode, I don't plan on expanding out the second floor or out of the storage room, so I'm actually going to give them a little more detail than normal. The best way I've found to do this is by matching their shape to the closest roof's angle. All we have to do is destroy the top two corners and replace them with inverted 26 or 45 degree walls like this. We also want to make sure we recenter the horizontal support beams to the new height of the window's opening. Since the upper floor windows are smaller, I'm going to remove the horizontal beams altogether, since leaving them in would effectively remove any visibility we had previously. For the doors, I'm going to add support beams surrounding the entire frame, giving it a sturdier and smoother look. For the large door, I'm going to give the top beams a little bit of overhang, just for an additional touch of detail. We'll do this by adding a half beam to give our full beam a measured snapping point. Add 2 more beams and you're set. We want to do something similar for the small doors, but there's a problem. If you place horizontal beams just above the small doors, you no longer have the height clearance to run through, and you can't even crouch. So we'll need to get creative. Start by destroying the wall above the door. Then, pull out your nice long horizontal 2-meter wood beam and use shift click method from earlier to place the center point on the wall. Bring it down slowly just to where it barely meets the top of the door frame, place it, and test your work. If you can walk through, you've done it correctly. If not, destroy the piece and place it a pixel or so higher. Once done, replace the wall we destroyed and add a half beam to either side to achieve the look we are going for. Bolster up the sides with 2 vertical beams and you're done. Let's do this to the bedroom door as well, just for uniformity's sake. For the dock entry, I'm actually going to leave this as an opening. I don't want to have to mess with the door whenever I'm running back and forth with loot from my boat, but I do want it to look nice, so we'll frame it accordingly. Let's open it up a bit by breaking these outer walls. I want the opening to be at least 2 wide, but centered on the width of the wall. Let's place half walls to fill up the width of the gap and give us a 2 full wall wide opening. I want this doorway to have character, so we'll use inverted angled walls for the top and then obviously frame in the sides with support beams to finish it off, giving us a nice opening that reminds me oh so much of your mother. If you watched part 1, you'll remember from the blueprint that we planned for 2 porches. And while we did lay the flooring for them, we never actually constructed them. Starting with the large side door, I left its platform a bit above ground so I can demonstrate how I handle floating structures. First thing is actually using the beams for what they were intended for. We'll place a half beam up to the platform on the corners, then follow up with 2 full beams on top. Now, I've already pre-measured where I want the roof to connect to my building, so I know I need to put another half beam as well. Now add the roofs. I went with 26 degrees since 45s looked a little bit too steep. With the basic structure of our porch done, let's make it look pretty. Keeping the theme of using crosses for the base of our structure, we'll place these underneath the platform to close the gap to the ground, leaving a space for stairs up. With the stairs down, we can use 26-degree walls to close the gap here as well. And now let's close the porch with some railing. Instead of letting the snap feature do its thing, I'm going to use the shift placement and estimation to make sure the height of the railing isn't clipping and making it look cluttered. Finally, let's frame the roof. We'll give it a little extra bolstering by using regular and inverted 26-degree walls, without closing off the sides. With that, let's add beams to the roof pieces. Let's go build the small doors porch. Just like the other, we'll start with the support beams, keeping the roof height identical to the previous porch. Add and bolster the roofs. And this time, since the floor is already on the ground, we'll just place some horizontal beams as framing pieces. All of the progress we have made here, all of the cool details and functionality you see, is from plain wood alone. So hopefully from here on out, you guys will never have a Meadows base that looks like this again. After we've done just about all we can do for the exterior with plain wood, it's high time we started decorating the interior with what we can. For this part of the project, I'm going to start with the storage room. As simple as it may sound, I've seen some absolutely atrocious chest rooms in my day, so feel free to steal this layout if you need. Start off by doing your best Hugh Hefner impression and fill the room with chests. Place them evenly along both walls by using visual keys like board lines on the floor pieces. Once you filled up both walls, you've probably noticed that, just like you short kings out there, there's a lot of unused vertical space. Let's remedy that by placing another layer of floor above the first chests. Then repeat the process from earlier and begin our second row of chests. Now that we have a suitable amount of storage, let's do the unthinkable and put some horizontal beams across the platforms. This makes it look a little cleaner and gives us a nice place to put signs for organization later. These chests being exposed isn't my favorite look, so I'm going to go ahead and do something similar to what we did for the dock. Next, let's take care of the kitchen and chimney. Fires produce smoke in Valheim and have their own physics. If you don't provide a way for smoke to escape, then you start taking damage as the smoke fills up the room. I want the chimney to run through the bedroom above, so I'm going to build the kitchen's fireplace inside the main floor. So, I'm going to destroy the two backmost center floor pieces to uncover the ground we can place fire on. Then, we'll go for the basic shape of the chimney by using walls, and I'm going to allow the walls to clip through the ceiling to the bedroom so I can easily tell where I need to work upstairs. We're going to place the fire as close to the floor as possible so it's easily accessible, and can be framed in to hide the ground beneath the build. Next, I'll use 1x1 floors to frame around the fire, all while following the established floor pattern to give it a cleaner look. Then we close in the top portion of the chimney using more walls. And before we head upstairs to work in the bedroom, I'm going to frame the opening and rough wall edges with beams and inverted walls. Finally, we can place our cooking station to officially finish the kitchen. Next, let's go up to the Chamber of Crying to make the chimney more attractive on this floor, and adapt the roof to our needs. I'll continue to build up the chimney with more walls, so that is an obvious feature on the roof from the outside. Then, we'll break some of the ceiling to make a vent hole for the smoke. Finish up bringing the rest of the chimney to the appropriate height while making sure to leave an opening for the bedroom. This isn't actually necessary, as fires have an effect radius that passes through walls, but I like the idea and think taking the extra time to frame it really adds to the bedroom's look. Unfortunately, with the way we left the top of the chimney, all of the pieces below it are susceptible to rain damage, and because the fire is technically uncovered, it can also be temporarily extinguished by the rain. So we'll need to climb, and one of the best ways to do so is by making temporary ladders. To be perfectly honest, I hate these things. You always slip off, they always give you just enough height to barely not make the jump, and are overall a migraine. But hey, they're what we have to work with for now. Once we're on the roof, we want to cover the chimney but still leave a way for smoke to flow, so we'll start by adding 1-meter beams to the corners. Then by playing around with the snapping options, we'll add 26-degree roof caps to the top. For once, we'll use the 26-degree cross for its intended purpose, and frame up the rest of the chimney with beams to keep the build look consistent. And with that, we've completed our chimney, so let's hop back down and delete the ladders we made on the way up. Let's head back inside and begin framing our stairs. We can use 26-degree beams not only to frame our stairs, but to also make a nice hand railing. Start by lining the exposed sides of the stairs. Then place 1-meter beams at the top of each stair. Then, put down beams snapping to the top of each 1-meter beam, making sure we use parallel pieces along the way. Next, I'm going to make a handrail for the top for safety using the same method as before. And voila, we have a beautiful staircase. By this point in the game, you've probably killed a few deer for food, But did you know you can use their pelts as rugs? Furniture like rugs add comfort to our structures, and our level of comfort dictates how long our rested bonus lasts when we are inside. So let's go ahead and add a few to our home to spruce up the place. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, we have furnished and beautified our home without ever needing to leave the meadows. Let's take a look at our creation so far. Well, my fellow architects, thank you for tuning in to this week's Build and Chill. If you enjoyed the video, even as just as background noise, like, comment, and subscribe. It really helps the channel grow. And with the basic wood portion of the build finished, if you think wood is exciting now, next week we'll go over the 2 additional variants we can find on our starting island. See you then.